Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call the Springfield City Council work session to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon.
Here.
Counselor Weber. Here. Counselor Moe.
Here.
Counselor Rodley. Here. Counselor Buck.
Here.
And Counselor Stout.
Here, thank you. All right, we have three work session items this evening. The first one is the fiscal year 2025 annual comprehensive financial report.
Good evening, counselors.
So wait, before you get started, Meg, I heard a rumor today.
It's a rumor.
It's still a rumor. Is this your last annual comprehensive financial report with us?
It is. It is. And Christina will take it next year and you'll be in excellent hands.
And so how many years of service has this been with the city of Springfield?
21.
Huh. Well, congratulations. We appreciate all the work that you've done for us over the years.
I've liked it here. I was telling Nathan that I'm not as excited as I should be to leave. So, but our audit went well the last year, so I'm glad to leave on that note.
We move on top.
So this is Ryan Pasquarella. He's with the auditing firm Red W, and he has been the audit partner on our audit for the last 10 years, I think.
Roughly.
And he'll speak to what they found.
Or didn't find or something like that. Absolutely. First of all, I did not get a vote on Meg retiring or not, and I really wish I had, but
Hey, neither did we, and we both like voting on stuff and disagree with Meg retiring.
Thank you, Meg. So as she said, my name is Ryan Pasquarella. I work for REDW. We're an auditing firm of about 350 people now. And we kind of span the United States. I was formerly with Grove Mueller and Swank, and we were purchased by REDW. And so now I come here under the REDW name, wearing a jacket and all that fun stuff in there. So I am here to talk about the audit for the year ending June 30, 2025. What is an audit? An audit really is, you want me to come in as a licensed Oregon municipal auditor to look at the records that you have, to look at the financial statements that you drafted, and give an unmodified opinion on it. The goal with any audit is to get an unmodified opinion, which really means we didn't find anything significant in the audit that would think that there are enormous errors in your financial statements. The auditing standards say I need to attempt to give you an unmodified opinion, which means I'm giving reasonable assurance that there are no material errors in the financial statements. And just need to be clear about that. I'm not looking at every single dollar in those financial statements. That's not what the auditing standards require. I am just saying reasonable assurance, no material errors within that. And that's with the numbers, but that's also with the disclosures and all the other information that is in your financial statements. So every year we come and do it, looking for that, essentially. Okay, so the audits that my firm performs for the city on an annual basis, first of all, an audit of the city itself, and you do have the annual comprehensive financial report that comes out of that, which is a pretty good sized document. We audit CETA because there's enough expenditures year over year in CETA to require its separate audit. We perform a federal compliance audit, basically looking at the federal funds that the city has received either directly or through the state or some other organization. And we test for compliance with the federal rules related to that as well. And then there's some Oregon minimum standards work, some compliance work also. And so there's multiple things that happen in, I'll say, a short amount of time, essentially. We start the audit communication stuff roughly in May, somewhere in there, where we just kind of figure out what's changed year over year for the city, have processes change, all of that. And we just try to get a good understanding so we can plan our audit. And then we spend couple weeks in October and in November, December, just trying to get everything wrapped up related to it. Your audit is required to be submitted to the state of Oregon within 6 months. So December 31st. I just finished a very busy season for myself. And so I'm hoping to have some time off here pretty soon. But the city of Springfield has done an excellent job with hitting deadlines, hitting goals that we have as far as what we need from the city. And then, as Meg said, I'm a little slower than she wants me to be, but I can live with that one. Required to be submitted by December 31st. The date on the actual issued financial statements, I believe, is December 2nd, which helps me tremendously with a very busy December happening. So I really credit the city for making sure that you're hitting the deadlines that you need to in there, essentially. Other things. So every year you're required to submit a financial statement to the state. And that basically just follows, the reporting rules, governmental reporting rules. In excess of that, you do the annual comprehensive financial report, which has other information in there as well, analysis and such. It isn't actually a required component, with the goal being that you get your GFOA certification, which is the Government Finance Officers Association. The ACFR gets independently looked at and graded to make sure it meets the requirements that are necessary. I had to double check, and I did earlier, 44 consecutive years getting that award. I mean, that's phenomenal, honestly, because if you mess up something in a year, they can say, no, we're not going to give you the certificate this year. Please try again next year, kind of thing on there. But 44 years, I was wondering how long you were here, but you told me. So
Way predates me.
so that's one of the longer consecutive streaks that I've seen. So I think just historically, Springfield has had a solid finance department in there. And so kudos at that point in there. 44 years. There we go. Okay. So we finished our audit, like I said, beginning of December in there. So really, there were no findings related to it. One small thing I'll point out, but that is it. So for the city, you got an unmodified opinion, which means I'm given reasonable assurance there are no material errors within your financial statements. CETA got the same thing. The one minor thing that we noted in the state regulations report, one of your funds, the ambulance fund, has a negative ending balance in it. And so that's just something that needs to be reported to the state so that they're aware of it, so they don't have to go searching through the document every time looking for it. So it's just in there at this point. And a lot of that has to do with like the payroll liabilities that are attached with it. The governmental reporting has changed. Let's say over the last, 10, 12 years or so, and really looked at payroll liabilities and what should be showing in your financial statements. So we've got the net pension liability related to the unfunded PERS. We've got some other post-employment benefit liabilities that magically appeared, and lots of estimates. In the current year, compensated absences changed a little bit because they're still adding on to kind of the payroll liabilities. And what I mean by that is really with your sick time, how your sick time is being reported within your financial statements. All it did was just grow your liability in there. And so, all of that really is helping with how that fund became negative at that point. Anything you want to say else about that?
We generally are making transfers from Fund 100 to help support the ambulance fund.
Yeah. And so to me, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is egregious and everything. It was just, like I said, I put it in the state report just to report it to the state as necessary. I mentioned we have to do a federal compliance audit. And with everything, right, there's rules on what we look at year over year as far as the different grants that the city receives. So this year we looked at the coronavirus again. There's just been a lot of money running through coronavirus, so it pops up with most of my clients. And then we looked at the CDBG program as well. And so between those two programs, we did not have any findings related to how the money is being spent and the rules essentially that the federal government asks me to look at in there. So most of this information is summarized in the governance letter that I provided to you. And basically, I mean, you read through it, it's boring. Boring's great in my job. You don't want the other type of presentation that I ended up doing sometimes. But really, I just want to say, I mean, the city has really got themselves in a good place with their finance department. I appreciate that. It makes my job as, you know, the auditor very easy, very quick to get through the information that we need to, essentially. So I am here just to see what kind of questions the council has, anything you want me to go into more detail about related to it.
Does anybody have more questions? I think we're good. The two things I just want to point out, one of them is the introduction portion and the background material in the city. If if anybody's interested in learning a ton about the city, starting to read the introduction to this is a really good grounding on everything that is going on in the city. You don't have to read the whole audit, just read the intro portion. Another piece is just to offer my thanks to the finance department. Good financial stewardship takes a ton of work, and I think we all appreciate the effort that you guys put into this.
Yeah. And I will say, so the introduction section that you talk about, at one point there was a comment coming back from, I think, GFOA about, you're putting way too much work into this introduction section, right? But it is such a valuable tool, just to understand what's happening with the city. So I think it's worth it. I don't care what they say.
Well, it's not for them.
All right. I think we are good. Thank you for coming and doing a brief presentation.
Thank you.
The request to formally accept it will be on the consent calendar at the regular session.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. The next item is Court of Record with Nate Bell.
I'm going to remove this. I think I'm far enough away from everybody. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's work session is looking for direction on whether there's interest on your part in the city's municipal court becoming a court of record. To give you some background on this, in the 2025 Oregon legislative session, House Bill 2460 was passed, which requires courts to notify defendants of their right to be transferred to a court of record. The city's municipal court is not a court of record. Lane County Circuit Court is. So they could be requested to be moved to Lane County Circuit Court. If that was to happen, we lose jurisdiction over that case. Where this becomes an issue for us, as we're unique in that we have a municipal jail, this could potentially undermine the efficacy of our jail. The process to become a court of record is pretty straightforward. Attached to your packet this evening is an ordinance, and so it requires that you pass an ordinance declaring the court to be a court of record, and that we file that with the state of Oregon, and that we pass all the requirements to be a court of record. And then we'd additionally need a recording software and equipment, as well as a second court clerk in the courtroom. As far as equipment goes, we have equipment that is compatible with the software that we're looking at. We installed that equipment during the pandemic, so that piece is fortunate. For the software, we're looking at For the Record. It's an industry standard software used by a lot of courts throughout the state. It has a annual cost of $5,200 per courtroom, so we're looking at 2 courtrooms, so $10,400 annual ongoing cost. And then the second component being a court clerk, a second court clerk in the courtroom. We currently have a vacancy that we haven't filled for a number of years. So it's in the budget. It's been reflected in the budgets that we've passed, as well as our 5-year forecast. However, we have been enjoying those savings for a number of years. It's been an experiment on my part to see if we could operate the court with less staff. It has been challenging, but we have managed to do it up until now. If we become a court of record, we would need to fill that position. That position has a roughly a cost of $120,000 annually. So to become a court of record, we'd be looking at about $130,000 annual ongoing cost. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you for questions.
Counselor Rodley.
Thank you, and thank you for this. In addition to the annual costs, is this a thing we do once and we never have to do it again? Or is this something that has like ongoing reporting or things that we would have to, it would take capacity to stay on top of?
So it has the ongoing operating component, which it's a higher standard of operating your court. You're recording all of the activities of that court. So that, yes, is ongoing indefinitely. In terms of becoming a court of record, that's just once. Once we become a court of record, we're a court of record moving forward. And then again, the ongoing annual costs. Does that answer your question?
Counselor Stout.
I'm excited about this in a lot of ways, and especially getting to know some of the great people working in the courts over there is just exceptional. I'm wondering, I'm always dollars and cents. So is there any return on the investment of becoming a court of record, financially speaking, for the city? I mean, do we receive additional fees? Is there additional monies coming in to kind of balance out the additional $130,000 we would have each year?
That's a good question, and I don't think I have a complete answer for that. But what I can say is there is a potential risk and vulnerability to the city financially by not becoming a court of record. Specifically, if the case is transferred to the circuit court, our city prosecutor still needs to prosecute that case, and so it could have added time and costs associated with the prosecutor contract. That wouldn't show up immediately, but it would show up eventually in those negotiations when that contract is renewed. And then additionally, we have a very significant investment in our municipal jail, and anything that would potentially undermine that investment. And when you look at this cost compared to the cost of running that jail, it's significantly smaller.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. I think you've covered all of our questions. So I think you're bringing this back in regular session.
Yeah, it'll be back in regular session, public hearing, and first reading.
All right. Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Third item is the regional wastewater expansion and metro plan amendment discussion for Goshen and Cresswell. Dan, there you go. When it's green, it's good.
Hit it again.
But you got to hit it again.
I can do a brief introduction.
Okay. All right.
So tonight's item is about the regional wastewater system, the potential for expansion to Cresswell and Goshen, and a potential metro plan amendment to facilitate that. Tonight, introducing Vincent Martorello from the city of Cresswell, Dan Hurley from Lane County Public Works, and they have a brief presentation. This is just really for information and discussion tonight. No action is requested. There will be future action based on them submitting the applications in the Metro Plan amendment.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Thank you for your time this evening. So yes, we're here to update you on this project that's been going on for many years, actually, around regional wastewater expansion. Actually found a report that went back to the 60s of an engineering report that looked at connecting Goshen to the Eugene Springfield Metro wastewater. So it's been an idea that's been around for a long time. The Board of County Commissioners got very interested in this after the Great Recession and looked at this as a potential project for increasing economic vitality in the region in Goshen. But as the years have gone on, the project has changed and expanded to potentially expand connection to the Short Mountain landfill. More recently, connecting the city of Cresswell, and then very recently, and just in the last couple of months, there have been some conversations around connecting Junction City. So we'll talk about some of those things. I just wanted to bring you up to speed on this issue. It's been since May of 2023 that we were last here in front of the council talking about this project, and there's been some turnover with your council. So I want to make sure that you're all aware of where we're at with this project and to get your guidance as we consider moving forward with a potential Metro Plan amendment. So we're having a work session here tonight with you. There will be one on January 21st, hopefully, with the city of Eugene. After that, we'll formulate how we move forward with the Metro Plan through the process, and I'll get more into that as we go through some slides here. So let's see. So Goshen is, you're probably all familiar with Goshen, we're just a few miles south down Interstate 5. But it's a unique area in the state. It has more than 300 acres of largely contiguous industrial land. And it's at this unique intersection for transportation with Highway 99, Interstate 5. There's a rail connection there. There's plentiful power with the Bountiful Power Administration substation. It's serviced by a water district, has access to fiber optics, communication, close access to labor markets. But this area hasn't expanded largely due to some regulatory barriers because it's not an incorporated city. This is unincorporated Lane County, and also because of wastewater. The residences there and industries are serviced by septic systems, which severely limit the growth potential for that area. So the Board of County Commissioners started working this around 2010, 2011, and worked towards developing what they called the GREAT Plan, the Goshen Regional Employment and Transition Plan. And through that process, we worked through a land use action to receive an exception to one of the statewide planning goals, goal number 14, to be able to upgrade that zoning to allow for urban levels of industrial development. Through that process, it was identified that we needed to do more work around the wastewater limitation there. So in 2015, the county commissioned a study that was conducted by Kennedy Jinks Consultants to look at the feasibility of providing wastewater services in this area. And they looked at several different options with lagoon systems and connecting into the MWMC system. And so we've had great cooperation with MWMC, our Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission, looking at this over the years. Ultimately, it was decided that connecting into the existing Eugene Springfield system was the most economically viable and had the best outcomes environmentally, tying into this very well, award-winning system. So that feasibility study outlined a conceptual plan running along Highway 99 with a force main. And then through that process, because Goshen is in close proximity to the Short Mountain landfill, we started considering what it would take to connect the landfill to Goshen and then ultimately into the system. And so if you're not familiar with, landfill operations, landfills generate a large amount of wastewater. There's open acreage of garbage that, as precipitation filters through that waste, it creates what we call leachate. So that's landfill wastewater. And we produce up to about 25 million gallons of that leachate each year. That wastewater currently comes to the MWMC system, but we have to transport it by trailer trucks. And it becomes quite an operation for the landfill. When we have these high precipitation events, we can have to kick into 24-hour operations where there's over 30 trucks a day going through, or even more than that. Sorry, but it becomes quite an operation, and it's the worst time you want to have tanks of wastewater, going 24 hours, down Highway 99 with this wastewater. We've had one tip in the past, and thankfully it didn't rupture, but I'm trying to avoid that, and also the carbon emissions of this trucking that we've been doing since 1997, I believe. So there's a big environmental benefit there. As we've continued to move through this project, wanted to get more information about the costs. We did a financial study in 2017 that estimated the construction costs and it evaluated some different models to propose for buy-in costs into the system. Also recommended a lot of different options for operations and maintenance, what we would need to do for land use and permitting and amending intergovernmental agreements. And so starting to work through how we would put all this together. In 2022, working with some consultants, we developed what's called the Project Definition Report. So this got into greater detail on the needs for pump stations and the force main lines, estimating flows and the number of hookups and such. So that has quite a bit of detail if we want to get into that in more detail. And then more recently, we've had conversations with the city of Cresswell. So they're in a unique position, which I'll let Vincent speak to about.
Thank you. The next couple of slides, I'm going to try to do a summation in my dialogue here. So we are currently operating under a agreement order with DEQ, and that's a nice way of saying we have a moratorium on us, that as we fulfill certain conditions, they award us what are called equivalent dwelling units, more connections. And we've been making really great progress with that, and we've had great conversations with DEQ to kind of lay out a schedule that's in the presentation for when we will be able to have that order taken care of, hopefully have a connection to the Metro wastewater system and put all of this behind us. Recently, and it's not reflected here because we just got an email today, they are willing to have some extension in our timeline for our facilities plan. The facilities plan has been a little bit up in the air because of all of these conversations and some of the commitments that we need to make. So again, a couple of weeks ago, we had a really good conversation with them, and they're willing to take a look at that, given our decision to request an extension to Springfield and go through the Metro Plan amendment. The cost for this ranges, well, we've looked at a couple of alternatives. One is to build a new plant ourselves, and that's roughly $70 million just to construct it. As new DEQ regulations come out and as things start to wear down, there'll be millions of dollars of investment, maybe every 5 years or 10 years, depending on the circumstance. One of the alternatives we looked at was connecting to Metro Waste. That number is around 40 to 45 million. In working with Lane County, and Lane County is putting their finance package together, which is adding time to the schedule. And that is upsetting DEQ because of our agreement that we have with them. So we've talked to Lane County about Cresswell taking on that financial commitment, which is about another $12 million. So that's putting the project up close to about $52 million, still less than the 70. And then whatever agreement we get into Lane County would pay us back. So we would just basically front that money so we can move it expeditiously or as expeditiously through this process. We did meet with Metro Wastewater Commission a couple of months ago, and they did give us as much as they can, with a lot of things that still need to be worked out, a sense of support that they like the idea. They see the value of it, not only to Cresswell, but also to the Wastewater Commission, with adding new users and collecting more money into the system. And with the connection comes certain upgrades to the system that Cresswell would have to help fund. So that's also a benefit to the Wastewater Commission, I guess their mindset as well. I think I surmised the couple of slides.
I think that's it. So thank you, Vincent. So just to bring you up to speed of kind of where we're at in the process. So in 2023, we started down the path to amend the Metro Plan. And so the reason why that's necessary is currently the Eugene Springfield Metropolitan Plan, we call the Metro Plan, prohibits extension of wastewater beyond the urban growth boundary. And then there's some limit, if that was amended, the system could connect by state law to other nearby municipalities within their UGBs, to rural unincorporated areas, communities, and to landfills. So what we're proposing at this time is allowable under state law, but we would need to amend the metro plan for that. So we knew that back in 2023 when we started down this process just for Goshen and the landfill. And then at that time, your council voiced support generally, however, wanting to know more about the costs and wanting to protect existing ratepayers and wanting to know more about capacity issues. And then we had those same sort of conversations with the city of Eugene and there was a joint planning commission. And so we stepped back from that and kind of put it on the back burner. There were lots of other things going on at that time, but we continued to work on addressing those issues around cost and capacity. So I'm going to talk about a couple of those things. Just to say, we weren't contemplating Cresswell at that time when we started down the path for a Metro Plan amendment. So as we're coming back again, the Board of County Commissioners has voiced support for bringing Cresswell into this conversation. And then I'll say, Junction City recently approached us. They're looking at a similar situation with a moratorium on housing. And we haven't had a conversation with our board yet. I think the board would be supportive based on previous conversations, but it's just too new into the conversation. We just haven't had the opportunity to talk about that yet. So at the end, we'll talk about different options of moving forward. But going back to kind of where we're at in the process, we wanted to explore these issues around capacity and cost. So on the capacity piece, talking with MWMC, they were willing to engage a consultant, Jacob Solutions Incorporated, to look at some of these capacity issues. They did a preliminary study and found that for the most case, the system can handle the capacity. And Matt Stouter is here and could talk in more detail. But we're looking at like a 2 to 3% increase in flows compared to the whole system over a 20+ year time horizon. So not a huge impact to the system, but there are some localized potential areas where we need to look further into with specific trunk lines coming into Springfield. We've been having some conversations with City of Springfield staff to look into that in more detail. But in general, the existing system has capacity, but it will need some more analysis. However, the timeline for additional improvements that are contemplated for the system could be sped up by increasing the flows coming into the system.
Dan.
Yeah.
And we may need Matt for this. So are you saying that with Cresswell and Goshen connected, that we have enough capacity in the Glenwood portion of the system? Or, and if you are, is that a current state, or is that including our planned build out of the area?
Great questions. So the areas where we saw potential capacity issues are in the Springfield trunk line that extends from Glenwood to where it terminates along the Franklin McVeigh Highway, where we would connect in from Goshen, and then also the Goshen pump station, and then potentially transporting across over to on the other side of the river to get to the rest of the system. And please correct me if I didn't explain all of that right. So we do need to do some more analysis around that. But I will just say that it's the intention of this project is that the new users into the system will pay for those needed upgrades so that we're paying our way. In addition, so we'll talk about so let me come back to that one too. So the other piece is around cost. So with that 2017 study, there were a couple different models that the consultant proposed, and we've had several conversations over the last several years about which was preferred. Ultimately, we've landed that MWMC is supportive of these new flows using their methodology, the System Development Charge, SDC methodology, for the costs to connect those flows into the system. With the caveat, and so there's been some estimating on those costs, and those are shown on the slide here. So these costs shown are just the connection costs, not the construction costs. But the issue right now is that MWMC is in the process of updating their methodology, and that's going to take them into mid 2026. So there's the awareness by Lane County and Cresswell that when those when that SDC methodology is updated, we will need to refresh these connection cost estimates. So the other piece is that we're proposing an additional 5% out of network ongoing charge to the new flows being added into the system for the additional, runtime on pumps and materials needed at the wastewater system. So that the new users are fully paying their way and it's not impacting existing ratepayers.
Go ahead, Councilor Mo. Yeah, Councilor Mo, you're on mute still.
What's the definition of units?
That's a great question that I might have to defer to Catherine for, or if anybody want to speak to that. I would need to get back to you, Counselor, that it's not my area of expertise. It's my understanding, or if anybody wants to speak to
Catherine
that.
raised her hand.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
up.
Catherine.
Yep. We're promoting you, Catherine. Hang on. We're going to pause for station identification.
So I can phone a friend here.
All right, can you hear us, Catherine?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I can.
Oh, there we are.
Can you show me? Can you show me the table again? Share the screen, and I'll show you. What's the question?
And Catherine, can you introduce yourself and your role?
Yes, sorry. I am Catherine Geese. I'm with West Yost Associates, and I've been supporting City of Cresswell as a technical advisor through this effort. And so the units are, so you can see there's two units. The first two rows are the max month dry weather flow and the peak hour wet weather flow. So those are in million gallons per day. So that would be the flow through the pipeline. And then the second two are max month wet weather BOD, which is the BOD load, and the max month weather TSS load. And those are pounds per day. So the flow numbers kind of represent, the flow from the sewer contributors, the sewer system contributors, as well as I&I flow, so infiltration flow. And then the loads, those represent just what are being contributed to by the users.
I'm still not sure what a unit is.
A unit, well, it's the unit, the value, each value there. So for example, under Cresswell, where it says 1.9 under units, that means that Cresswell on an annual average basis, on a max month dry weather basis, so in a max month in dry weather, the flow that they'd be contributing to the system is 1.9 million gallons a day. I'm not sure why the table is labeled this way, but that's what that number means. And then the next number under that, the 3, means the peak hour, the absolute peak flow that Cresswell would contribute is 3 million gallons per day. So in the SDC process, these values are used, they're plugged into an equation that's developed by MWMC that says, what are your flows for these values? What are your loads for these values? You plug those in and then you plug it into an equation and it gives you a dollar amount. So I think probably that equation says, plug in unit here, and then that's what this table is just showing what was assumed that went into that equation. Does that help?
I'll have to work on that.
Rodman.
Thank you.
Okay,
I think she
thank you,
said so
Catherine.
many million somethings. It's a lot of water.
Can I
It's-
ask a
it's-
question
yeah.
about the table?
Well, let's. I think that she said it was gallons. Catherine? Did you say it was?
Yes, it's
gallons?
a million gallons per day, which is a typical unit of wastewater flow that we often refer to.
Okay, so we'll go to Councilor Radley and then we'll come back to Councilor
My
Buck.
question is a little bit different. So if your question is on this topic, I could defer and wait till you ask that and then we could move on.
Yeah, I'm just curious under those on the parameters, the BOD and the TSS. I just don't know what those mean.
Yeah,
Oh,
so go ahead, Catherine.
sure. BOD is biochemical oxygen demand, which is a kind of a complicated chemical parameter, but it's measurement of the organic content of the water. And TSS is total suspended solids. So both of those, again, are very common parameters used in wastewater treatment to describe and characterize wastewater.
How's Rodley?
Thank you. So this is all focused on the now, like what this would take to do this now and what it's looking like now. And I know you mentioned, Dan, that there's some maybe considerations about change in methodology, because one of the things I'm curious about is there's the what we do now, and then there's the what does this look like after Cresswell and Goshen and Junction City, and then because of it, there's additional housing that's been developed, and we've developed in Glenwood. And so I'm wondering if we're at the point yet where you all are building out, like, this is what it looks like in 20 years or in the future.
So I think, go ahead.
Well, I think for the Cresswell piece, what's built into the model is Cresswell's population at 7,500, which is, I think, a 15 or 20-year projection. Currently, we're at 5,800. And realistically, in 20 years, we don't see it growing to 7,500, but that was the number based off of the population projections.
And for Goshen, it's at full built out of those industrial and remaining residential lands. But I think Matt,
Now we're going to pop. Matt, you want to grab a chair and pull on up?
Good evening, Matt Stouter, MWMC Executive Director and City of Springfield Environmental Services Director. Yeah, so the capacity that was looked at by Jacobs for MWMC and for the City of Springfield systems, the flows coming from Goshen and Cresswell, we did a full build out look. So we looked at the 20-year service or the 20-year horizon and full build out in the communities. What would those flows be at the plant? And was there excess capacity available beyond the 20-year need that would be available? And the answer for the plant was, for the most part, yes. You take the whole 20-year build out, you build out the cities, there's still available capacity in excess. That's what the charge for STCs would be getting you. There, however, was not capacity in the Glenwood pump station nor in the local line running up McVeigh Highway, which was discussed. That needs further analysis and would need to be, once we decide, what the engineering solution is, needs to be determined. It would be who would pay for it and how would it be structured.
Okay, so can you clarify that one point? When you say who would pay for it and how would it be structured? Like, if we say yes to all this and we're going forward, right? Is there any scenario which Springfield ratepayers would be buying more capacity on the Glenwood, on that Glenwood line?
There could be, but we heard from this council and the Eugene Council previously that they did not want that to be the case, and so we would structure it so that that wouldn't be the case.
So to be fair, that would be one of those details to kind of be worked out later in the process to make sure. And I know this is a lot of money that Cresswell's looking at, and I respect this is a tough ask. I think the other question that I have is, when you model the out years, as far as do our rates stay stable? Right. So you've talked about in 20 years, we're going to build this out. We're going to have 7,500 people in Cresswell. Right. But like when you think about that SDC methodology, are our rate projections staying stable in those out years?
So I don't know that I can answer that definitively. My sense is yes, because for the city of Springfield, the user fees are based on flow components. So what does it cost to convey the flow from A to B? For MWMC, there's a conveyance component and a treatment component, which is why we have the BOD and the TSS numbers up there, because it's not only about capacity of flow at the plant, it's about capacity of different pollutant parameters. So I think if we take care of the engineering solutions with the line in Franklin and at the pump station, and create the capacity, and somebody pays for that needed capacity, then I don't foresee an issue in the local lines. I do want to be clear that like in the Glenwood pump station, for example, we're going to need to most likely drop in a fourth pump. If that to convey that across, there may be something else that's needed, additional work, but that cost is going to be so it's going to need to be determined who pays for it. I don't think our board is interested in paying for it. We would need to work out a solution where it gets paid in order for that to move forward. We'd have to come up with some, a deal.
So I think that maybe one of the outstanding questions, right? We're slowly working back who's paying for it and how Crestwell's accessing the system is ultimately what we're saying is like, hey, Crestwell as a community is going to have to somehow identify the source to pay that need, or Crestwell in a partnership with Lane County is going to do that, whether that's through federal funds or a loan program. Is that the path we're working down?
I would say correct. All we've agreed to at this point is the methodology for the SDCs. And so the SDCs have a component that looks backwards to what capacity we're using that has already been built. And then there's a forward-looking component of what is going to be needed for the future. So we would be paying for that through that methodology for immediate needs, for upgrades, for the infrastructure to convey the flow from Crestwell clear to the pump station. If there are things that are needed to accommodate that, then Lane County and Crestwell need to be on the hook for that. So this is just the first step that we're looking at here, which is a policy decision. Is the council supportive of the policy of extending wastewater outside of the UGB? Then we'll need to go through a financial plan. We'll need to amend the MWMC intergovernmental agreement. And so you'll be a party to that as well, to make sure that this satisfies, all the entities in the system.
Okay. Do you have more slides before we start asking more questions?
I just have a couple more.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it
Yeah.
Yep.
So if I can go to the next slide, my clicker's not working. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Try again. Okay. Oh, now I went too far. Okay. So kind of big picture, why would you want to consider this? One big piece is the economic vitality for the region. So, being able to add jobs in Goshen, there isn't a whole lot of housing in Goshen, but residents in Springfield would be interested in those jobs for sure. The increased housing in Crestwell, there's people that, live in Crestwell but work in Springfield. So it's, looking at it on a regional economic perspective. There's also efficiency and environmental benefits. I would say that wastewater systems throughout Lane County, in the rural and small incorporated cities are struggling. The cost to maintain these types of systems, given the regulatory environment and the small streams that they may be discharging to, it's becoming more and more cost prohibitive for these areas to sustain wastewater systems. And so there will be better environmental benefits by managing this through one, very well-run system that's able to comply with all the permit regulations. We talked about the landfill leachate issue, and I just want to talk about that. As we look at some of these infrastructure improvements, they may not all be needed right away. We're talking about Goshen building out over probably a 20, 30-year time horizon, where that may make sense to look at that, 15 years down the road, but there would need to be an agreement up front of when that's needed, that would have to happen. There's the issue, as Vincent talked about increasing the ratepayer base to support future upgrades to the system. If you have more users in the system, we can spread out that cost. Again, talked about this 5% out of network surcharge so that there wouldn't be existing increases to existing ratepayers. And then, as we're talking about how to craft this as a Metro Plan amendment, the way we were looking at it currently for just Goshen, the landfill, and Crestwell doesn't mean that we're opening up for sprawl to service, everywhere, that we could potentially reach. We're just talking about these specific areas. Now, if we talk about Junction City, I would love to hear your feedback on that, but it's just such a new point in the conversation. There is the option where we could craft a more general amendment where wastewater services could be extended where it's, technically feasible or, with the support of MWMC or something like that. But would like to hear your feedback on that. And then I think I have one more slide, or two more slides. So again, we talked about why the Metro Plan amendment is needed. I think we've covered all that. And then the last part is just the next steps. Talked about the 2 work sessions with your council, with City of Eugene. The next step would go to a joint planning commission meeting, so a convening of the 3 planning commissions. And then the planning commissions would deliberate, give their recommendations to the councils. Then we would have a joint elected public officials hearing between Eugene, Springfield, Lane County, and then finally come back for deliberations and action. So we're trying to get through that before your summer break in July. That may be too aggressive to get through that, but we'd like to get as far as we can down the road so that we can be able to answer this question for Cresswell.
All right, Councilor Stout first, and then we'll go to Councilor Buck.
Thank you. I'm largely supportive of this idea because I don't see it as, paving every space between down, Springfield and Cresswell and Goshen. I don't see it as an instrument to do that. I think it is good as on a long term, and I appreciate the approach. My concern and question is property owners, and is there going to be much interruption with current property owners, especially within the Springfield city limits? Will they, if we go through with this plan, have we thought through, okay, yeah, we're gonna have to, bugger up, what's it called, the Franklin Boulevard for a while, or not Franklin Boulevard, whichever the McVeigh Highway is on that one, or are there going to be certain landowners that are going to have an issue with their properties? Those are the questions that I'm asking. I'm just wondering, have you thought through much of that? And I'm also concerned with that as it goes to Goshen, but that's not really my purview.
Councilor, I think if there comes a point where we need to increase the size of that trunk line along McVeigh, there would be a disruption. But I think that, again, that's going to take a lot more analysis to find out when that would need to happen. If that can accommodate just the Cresswell flows for now, and then we look at Goshen over time, that could be quite a ways down the road before that would need to happen. As far as the pump station upgrades, I don't think that would have a significant increase or impact on property owners. But then the line down Highway 99 could have impacts, will have impacts over time as that line would extend through a trench that impacts property owners. Yeah.
Councilor Buck.
Thank you for the presentation. I definitely appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I think it's an exciting project and an exciting opportunity, particularly when you consider the region. I do want to know, I'm very interested to hear what comes back from the planning commissions. I think they're an important part of the process, and their feedback is really helpful. So I'm very interested to hear where that is. And you've already gone to them in the past. And I know the project has kind of evolved since then. So I'd be very interested to kind of hear the evolution of that conversation with them. So that'd be helpful. And then just to clarify, making sure I understand. So in respects to Goshen, there was a portion of it that wouldn't necessarily need to happen immediately, but then the pump station would need to happen immediately in Goshen. Is that, I got a little lost as to what needs to happen sooner than later and what can get pushed off for 15 years. I got a little lost there. So you could clarify that. That'd be helpful.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor. I think we are going to need more analysis on that before we can definitively say. So we've only done that project definition report, that preliminary engineering, and that was for Goshen. Cresswell has done a similar preliminary engineering, but we would need to take this to the next step of a full engineering design, further capacity analysis. Jacob's analysis was also very preliminary. So I think I'm not sure that I can answer that at this point, unless Matt, you have thoughts.
So I can answer it from the Glenwood pump station. We're having a consultant do an analysis right now. We actually have a pump being dropped in there right now, but we're looking at additional analysis to accommodate this and what it would take, and we'll have an answer for that in the coming months. But my expectation is that we couldn't accommodate Cresswell flows right now with the existing capacity or the existing infrastructure that we have in place. So, and I realize I invited myself up here. I can go sit down, but I wanted to address the mayor's comments. One of the things that I look out for in my role is for Springfield is how is this going to benefit Springfield ratepayers and Eugene ratepayers? Is it going to benefit those ratepayers? And so certainly, Goshen, Crestwell, Junction City stand to gain from connecting to our system. We want to be compensated and made whole. However, I think I don't want to get into it tonight, but there's other things that these communities have to offer to MWMC that ultimately would benefit Springfield and Eugene ratepayers. For example, our solids processing and solids handling. We apply solids to ryegrass fields and cooperative agreements with farmers. Those farmers are leaving the program right now. We're concerned with PFAS. It's a long story. I don't need to get into it here. Junction City and Crestwell have indicated they'd be willing to potentially partner with us to apply PFAS to apply biosolids on their grounds. So that potentially would be a long-term savings to Eugene Springfield ratepayers. There's other examples I can give, but I won't get into it now, but we are considering that. So,
all right, Catherine.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment in case this wasn't clear, just to try to answer the question that was asked. So, City of Crestwell, as we indicated earlier, is under a mandate. They have to get this system in place. And so they must construct a pipeline and pump station that connects Crestwell through Goshen and all the way up to the MWMC system, as we were talking about. Goshen, on the other hand, is not necessarily in that same timeline. So when we were saying earlier that, that Crestwell might construct the infrastructure first and then Goshen would buy in later as the rest of their collection system gets developed, that's what we mean. And so I think I understood the question was, yes, a pump station and pipeline from Goshen all the way through the system would be constructed as soon as it could be to comply with Crestwell's timeline. And then more flows would come in as the Goshen collection system in that area gets developed, which isn't really on a current timeline.
Councilor Wadley.
Thank you. And I want to start by echoing what my colleagues have said. I really appreciate the work and the collaboration that has gone into this, because I think this is a great model for how we do this work. But one of the things that you said was around, that we have this policy conversation and then we move into the work. But how I'm seeing this is that I think there's going to be a few policy conversations as we move through it. Because I think there's do we start here and how, what happens there? And the other thing is, I think there's definitely some economy of scale, right? As you bring in, to your points about bringing in additional ratepayers, that there is, and there is the potential for this to become this sort of behemoth, unmanageable thing. And so I think for me, as we move forward, and maybe this is something the planning commissions can dig into too, looking at those sort of sections of like, okay, we make these initial policy conversations, and then how are we going to make sure that the management is who's doing what and when? Because I think that it could potentially, it sounds really organized when we talk about it, or we look at it on paper and we're like, we'll have a timeline and the Crestwell will come in and then maybe Goshen, but it could happen in some ways that it could get really messy. So I feel also generally supportive, particularly of the process and the fact that we're taking our time to figure this out. And I'm probably going to want a few check-ins as we move through this to see where it's going, and definitely want that sort of planning commission input. It's so helpful to hear from the other municipalities as to what you are looking at and what you're willing to do, and to sort of keep. I'm not ready to make a decision and let it go, is what I'm saying. Thank you.
All right. I think what you're hearing is we're generally supportive. In fact, I think I'm generally supportive of having a conversation and letting the Junction City conversation develop in a way that's organic too, right? Like Crestwell's going to tell us a lot about what the other small cities go through. I keep thinking back to the parts of the story of the city of Coburg where we did not figure this out, and and that was probably 20 years ago. And when you look at the price of them providing wastewater services to their citizens, I keep thinking about that question about affordability and what actually makes it affordable to live in the rural part of Lane County. And so I just want to kind of caveat that with going, okay, as this conversation develops, we've got to get it right for some of these smaller cities in a way that makes sense and gives them a path forward, because we cannot have the thing that happened to Coburg, happen to places like Cresswell or Junction City. And I understand that's going to take a little bit of time. The other part that I want to be really clear about is I think the leachate line is an important part of this story, especially as we hear people talk about more investments around water intake points through Glenwood. Right? The idea that we're trucking gallons and gallons and gallons of wastewater through a water intake point makes no sense whatsoever, right? Like, and the idea that we're going to get more time and energy spent on making this connection from Glenwood into the south part of the county is, I think, really important. And I believe this council sent numerous letters to the county saying, hey, we're behind this. I know it's going to mature in a way that makes some sort of sense, but also this has been a lot of work so far, and I'm glad to see it develop. And the last thing I'll say before we let you guys go, Cresswell's in a tough position here. Like, I think we all see that. We see how hard you guys are working and how much this sits on your community. And even though we've got a lot of work to be done, I just want you to know that when you go back to your community, know that we know that you guys are in a tough position around how do you develop, how do you do it at an affordable rate, and how do you make it so that you can live in Cresswell and, build a great community down there.
I really appreciate hearing that, Mayor. Thank you. We have great staff, and they've been working very hard and for very long with Lane County to come up with a feasible solution, because there will be a rate increase for Cresswell, and it's going to be moderate to significant, and we're going to look at programs to minimize that impact, but that's the reality. And also, we don't have a choice. So it's going to be what it is, and we're going to make the best of it.
Dan, do we need to give you more direction than?
No, that's perfect, Mayor. Thank you. I just want one more point.
Sure.
Is that this is a statewide priority too, and the direction we're heading as a state. The Governor's Office of Regional Solutions is very involved in this project and has been a great convener, because there's many entities and staff. And so we have 3 different work groups going, one looking at the Metro Plan piece of it, one looking at the funding options. And so they're bringing in, potential agencies that can help fund this project, and then also looking at the technical aspects around the engineering of it. So there's just a lot of people working on this project, just a few represented here today, but it's a larger sort of regional project of interest for the state.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. And we look forward to hearing back from you guys again.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. That was our last item. So I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the work session, and we have until 7 o'clock. I will call the regular session of the Springfield City Council to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon,
Here.
Councilor Weber,
Here.
Councilor Moe,
Here.
Councilor Radley,
Here.
Councilor Buck,
Here.
and Councilor Stout.
Here. Thank you. Can you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
There is one time designated for public testimony this evening under business from the audience. If you are attending in person, please complete the request to speak card located at the front of the council chambers and turn them into the city recorder. If you are joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, computer, and wish to speak during business from the audience, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. The order of public testimony is as follows: anyone in the council chambers, and then anyone who has raised their virtual hand. First item, please.
Mayor, the first item is the Human Trafficking Prevention Month proclamation, and this is your item.
So we're going to start the year with a proclamation. I think Gracie's going to make a couple of comments. So come up here, Gracie. I'm going to read the proclamation, and then what I asked Gracie to do was just to spend a minute talking about Human Traffic Prevention Month, and then we'll take the picture. Whereas human trafficking is a public health issue and a crime that harms health and well-being of individual families and communities, often across generations. Whereas human trafficking is a crime involving the exploitation of people for labor, service, or commercial sex. Whereas human trafficking can happen to anyone, but certain populations are at greater risks, including people affected by abuse, violence, poverty, unstable living conditions, or social disconnection. Whereas it's essential that residents of Springfield work together to raise awareness in a way that honors those impacted. We must educate ourselves about the myths and facts of trafficking, spread the word about prevention and intervention resources, and join formal campaigns to end trafficking. And whereas an effective response to human trafficking requires a coordinated, victim-centered approach that includes collaboration between citizens, elected officials, and government departments, as well as law enforcement, service providers, medical professionals, and lived experience experts to ensure survivors do not fall through the cracks as they seek safety and services in their journey. I, Sean Van Gordon, Mayor of Springfield, proclaim January 2026 to be Human Trafficking Prevention Month in Springfield, and call upon all citizens to join our efforts to increase education and work collaboratively to prevent human trafficking in our community. All right, Gracie, could you just share a few words and thoughts about Human Trafficking Prevention Month? You got to switch it to green. There you go.
Are we good now? Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you and your time tonight. January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and so we really appreciate this opportunity for Springfield to proclaim it as such. One reason why this is so important to us and just our community in general is this is something that we see every day. It's something that happens in our community. I think it's something that's often overlooked that we pass by on the streets, but it's important to all victims and survivors that we recognize this and come together. This is something we can only combat once we do this all together. It's not something we can do by ourselves. And so having your support behind us really just helps combat the effort against trafficking. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we're going to take a picture over here. Next item, please.
Mayor, the next item is the consent calendar.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second,
Can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Counselor Weber,
Yes.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
yes.
Counselor Buck,
Yes.
and Counselor Stout.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes 5 yeses, 0 nos. Next item, please.
Next item is business from the audience.
I have one card this evening. It is from Callie Ackland.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. My name is Callie Ackland, and I live in Ward 4. I don't have a prepared comment tonight. I didn't think I'd be able to make it, so kind of just going off my notes app. First, I am here again to ask for a payroll tax rate that maintains current library services and positions. I know obviously that's not on the agenda today, but just coming back from the break and wanted to make sure that it was still fresh in your minds as that decision is coming up soon. Additionally, I wanted to ask about ICE. It's been about a month now since about 20 constituents came and spoke about ICE and expressed their fears and concerns about the ICE raids and how ICE has been detaining people without due process, taking legal immigrants off the streets. And I was disappointed that the city didn't even issue a statement of support before going on holiday break. So I'd like to ask if you guys know when you'll be saying anything or responding rather to those constituents' requests. And then lastly, as I was pulling in here, I parked in that library parking lot and noticed that one of the lights is out, which makes an entire corner just really dark, and it just feels kind of uncomfortable parking there and walking alone in the evening. So I wanted to ask if the city could put that on a project list. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards. Neil, are there any other hands?
No hands for this item.
Okay. All right. Or Nancy, the light.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. And I appreciate your comments and bringing that to our attention. We've made a concerted effort in the city to improve the lighting up around and underneath City Hall and for the safety of our community and our employees. And as somebody that pays attention to the safety, I think that's an issue. So we will definitely put that in our operations queue to get that addressed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just had, I guess, a couple of comments for. I really just want to talk about what I think is on folks' minds with that, and Callie brought it up, and that's the issue around safety, trust, and how we care for one another in Springfield. We're committed to being a city people are treated with dignity and respect, where neighbors feel safe and supported, and where we prioritize honesty and openness. And while as a city, we continue to explore meaningful ways to support our community, I think we should ask the city manager to work with Team Springfield to prepare a community statement that affirms who we are as a city, a statement that reflects our core values as a community of opportunity, where people feel respected and free to gather, to celebrate, and to belong. And if everybody's good with that.
Mayor, I'm happy to bring that forward with our Team Springfield partners. We have a really strong partnership with Team Springfield, and I'm proud of the relationships that we have to address issues that are a concern to everyone in our community. I'm proud to live in Springfield. I'm proud of our community, and I'm proud of the way that we care for each other, and I think it's appropriate to express those values. Thank you.
Are there any other council responses? Next item, please.
You have ordinances next on your agenda. Ordinance number 1 is the Comcast franchise extension ordinance. This is an ordinance to extend the terms of ordinance 6208, granting Comcast of Oregon 2, Inc. a franchise for operation of cable telecommunication systems, adopting a severability clause and providing an effective date. This is a first reading, no action requested, and Josiah Broomfield is here for this item.
Good evening. Council action is requested to extend Comcast existing cable television franchise through June of 2027. Since 1991, Springfield, Lane County, and Eugene have jointly negotiated and granted Comcast this franchise for the operation of a cable communication system. Current negotiations are nearly complete, and all parties are optimistic that resolution will be achieved before this extension expires. The proposed ordinance would only extend the terms of the current franchise. All other terms and conditions would remain the same. A proposed franchise renewal agreement will be brought before council when the negotiations have been completed.
How many times have we extended this franchise?
The last time it was renewed was in 2018, and I believe it's been extended yearly since then.
Okay, so it's the continuation of the same 2018 conversation.
Correct.
And we feel reasonably comfortable that, like, we've got line of sight to getting to a resolution.
Yes, we do.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. I believe it's first reading only. No action requested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Ordinance number 2 is annexation of territory to the city of Springfield, annex 5.67 acres of employment mixed-use property, Glenwood, located at map 17-03-34-44. That's tax lots 800, 900, 1100, 1200, and 1402, withdrawing the same territory from the Glenwood Water District. Again, for the record, this is an ordinance annexing certain territory, 17-03-34-44, tax lots 800, 900, 1100, 1200, and 1402 to the city of Springfield and Willamette Lane Park and Recreation District, withdrawing the same territory from the Glenwood Water District, adopting a severability clause, and providing an effective date. This is a first reading, and Tom Severs is here for this item.
Good evening and Happy New Year, Councilor or Mayor and City Councilors. I am Tom Severs, Senior Planner with the current planning section. Tonight, the Council is requested to consider the first reading of an ordinance to annex an approximately 5.67 acre area that includes 5 tax lots in Glenwood. More specifically, the proposed annexation area is outlined in red and is currently improved with commercial businesses. The applicants are the property owners who initiated the annexation by submitting the required application materials. The site is zoned Glenwood Employment Mixed Use with the urbanizable fringe UF10 overlay, seen here by the opaque shading. As you can see by the orange dashed line, it is contiguous to the city limits along the north and east boundaries. If annexation is approved, no other zoning changes are requested except for the removal of the UF10 overlay. With annexation, the subject site will be removed from special districts such as the UF10 overlay, depicted here by the absence of the opaque shading, and removal from service areas such as the Glenwood Water District. Again, no other zoning changes will occur with this application. There are 4 approval criteria for annexations in the Springfield Development Code, which were fully analyzed in the staff report and summarized as follows. 1, or criterion A, within UGB and contiguous to the city limits. Again, as previously stated, it is contiguous to the city limits along the north and east boundaries. Criterion B, consistent with policies of the Springfield Comprehensive Plan and Metro Plan. Policies 27, 29, 33, 34, and 35 of the 2030 Comprehensive Plan's urbanization element are met through this application, as the annexed land will be fully within the Springfield urban service area. Criterion C, within boundary for minimum level of key urban facilities to be received in a timely and efficient manner. Policies 29, 31, and 32 of the 2030 Comprehensive Plan's urbanization element are met through this application as well. If annexation is approved, the subject territory can easily obtain key facilities and services from the Franklin Boulevard right-of-way. These facilities and services will include sanitary sewer connection, subwater and electric service, fire protection services from the Eugene Springfield Fire Department, and police services from Springfield Police. The subject site is currently within the service area of the Willamette Lane Park and Recreation District. And lastly, criterion D, annexation agreement. An annexation agreement has been prepared by staff and is ready to be signed by the applicants. The agreement covers obligations for the applicants and for the city, including any financial responsibilities. The agreement includes details on future connection to key urban facilities and services and withdrawal from special service districts. If the annexation is approved by City Council during the second reading, then the agreement will be ready for execution by the city manager. Thank you all, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions? So with an annexation, and I know we changed our annexation procedures, so you may have to remind me, we don't have to do a
No,
public
it
hearing
feels
here?
like a test. This is one that doesn't need a public hearing, and it's in the packet that Tom prepared, that it is still an ordinance without a public hearing.
Perfect. I think we both passed. All right, then we have no questions. This is first reading only, no action requested. Next item, please.
Ordinance number 3 is the Aspen Street Menlo Loop Ordinance Special Service District Correction. This is again a first reading, and Tom Severs is here for this item. I'm sorry, I'll read the ordinance into the record. An ordinance withdrawing a segment of Aspen Street and Menlo Loop from the Rainbow Water District and providing an effective date.
Tom Severs, current planning section here again. So you have seen this item before. Prior to the break, there was, I believe, a legal error with the items I had brought previously. So this is once again just trying to correct the erroneously stated service districts that were in the original ordinance. And that is it.
All right, any questions? All right, this is first reading only, no action requested. Next item, please.
Next item, you'll see a pattern here with Tom Severs. Item 4 is a Laura Street Ordinance Special Service District Correction. This is an ordinance withdrawing a segment of Laura Street from the Rainbow Water District and providing an effective date. Again, this is a first reading, and Tom Severs is here for this item.
I am still Tom Severs, current planning section. Same thing with this one, erroneously stated service districts in the original ordinance to be corrected in this ordinance.
Are there any questions about this? All right, Tom, before we let you go, it could be, get 3 agenda items. We'll throw the 4th one for free. All right, this is first reading only, no action requested. Thanks. Next item, please.
Your 5th ordinance is a court of record. This is an ordinance declaring Springfield Municipal Court to be a court of record under ORS 221.342. This is a first reading, and Nathan Bell is here for this item.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nathan Bell, Finance Director. The item in front of you this evening is a request to conduct a public hearing and a first reading of an ordinance declaring Springfield Municipal Court to be a court of record. Being that we just discussed this early in the evening, I'm going to turn it right back over to you.
All right. Are there any questions about this? All right. This is first reading only. No action required.
Public hearing?
It doesn't have a public hearing on it.
We don't. Okay.
I passed this test. All right. Next item, please.
Any business from the City Council?
The only item that I have is that the 20th will be going over committee assignments for the year. We're probably and we're probably going to have to go through these multiple times. But if you have a committee that is not working for you from time, or maybe you're just ready to switch from a policy perspective and try something new, please give me a call, and so I can start moving people around. Other than that, does anybody have anything else? All right, next item, please.
Any business from the city manager?
Just a quick update for council on 2 different days this week. I will be going to Springfield High School to talk to their leadership class about what it means to be a city manager, what a city manager does, how it impacts our community, and hopefully maybe inspire a few kids to get into public service. However, as much as I speak in public, which is a lot, I do admit a little bit of trepidation of talking to high school students. So I'm just going to have to get over that and know that they will not care, and that's okay. And I will try to let them know that high school really doesn't matter right now, and it's going to be fine. So I'll probably save that for the end, just so I don't get in trouble from the teacher.
We do not want to hear it if you get detention.
I promise I will not, Mary. Then that's all I have. Thank you.
Next item, please.
The next item is business from the city attorney, but Mary Bridget, we have a question for you. The last item that Nathan Bell brought up, the court of record, did not have a public hearing on the agenda, but it did have a public hearing within his AIS. Should we hold that public hearing?
You can, but it's not the type of ordinance that requires a public hearing.
Okay.
So that's probably where the discrepancy
Okay.
is. So but it's the council's decision if you want to hold one quickly just to cover yourself, but it's not necessary.
I'm seeing head nods like we missed a public hearing. Do you need to reread the item?
Yes, I could do that. This is item Under ordinances, a court of record, an ordinance declaring Springfield Municipal Court to be a court of record under ORS 221.342.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. I don't have any cards. Do we have anybody online that wants to speak?
No hands for this item.
I'm going to close the public hearing, and this is a first reading only, no action required. Next item.
Next item under business from the city attorney is item number 1, Ward 4, City Council resignation acceptance and interim counselor appointment process discussion. And Mary Bridget is here for this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to begin the first discussion on filling or making the appointment for the interim counselor for the Ward 4 vacancy. Attached in your packet is a resignation letter from Councilor Blackwell. The first step in this process is for the council to declare that position is vacant, and then you'll move forward with the appointment process. I'll be coming back to you on January 20th with a process. You will have a public hearing on that evening to see if there's any public input about the process for appointing the interim counselor for Ward 4. If there's not other direction from you, I plan to bring forward a similar process to previous council appointment process, which is approximately a 30-day application period, then an opportunity to review the applications and interviews, and then deliberation and appointment. All of these items will be in open session, not an executive session, so they'll be at regular meetings. Looking at the schedule, I think you should be on track if it goes as planned to be appointing someone in April.
All right, Councilor Rodley.
April. So can you just, so that folks know, can you kind of talk through the process? Because whomever we appoint will not fill out the remainder of Councilor Blackwell's term. They would be running, would they have to run in May?
No, in November. So,
Okay.
So the charter provides that in situations like this where the vacancy occurs early in someone's term, that an interim counselor is elected at the next general biennial election, which is the upcoming November 26th election. So you'll appoint someone ideally in April. That person's term will be through 2026, essentially. And then the community will have an opportunity to elect somebody at the November general biennial election to fill the remainder of that term, which is 2 years. So it's a different situation than we had with the previous vacancy where Councilor Buck assumed further along in that term. And then the Ward 5 seat is just up for election this coming May, just like any other election. So something different there. And then I believe if people are interested in voting, or I'm sorry, in running in the general biennial, they would have to get in their paperwork, I think, in August. So thinking about that.
And when we meet again on the 20th, we're going to have an
We'll say it again.
opportunity, we'll have an opportunity to go in specifics through all those dates.
Yes.
And I think for the public, the best thing you can do is read the packet information if you're interested in this on the 20th and listen to that conversation. Are there any other questions?
And any different direction about the process, you can also provide that information on the 20th. But if you think of something, please let me know. But I'll be bringing forward something similar to what you've seen before.
I think you starting with that would be a very good idea. The last 2 times we've used that process, it's been fairly effective.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the only other thing I would just mention is Councilor Blackwell was an exceptional counselor, and she will be missed in City Hall, and we wish her the best of luck.
Definitely.
All right. I think we need a motion.
I move to accept the resignation of Beth Blackwell as Ward 4 City Councilor and declare the position vacant and provide guidance on the process for appointing an interim city councilor.
Second.
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Councilor Weber.
Yes.
Councilor Mo.
Yes.
Councilor Rodley.
Yes.
Councilor Buck.
Yes.
And Councilor Stout.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes, 5 yeses, 0 no's. Next item, please.
Any other business from the city attorney?
No other business. Just welcome back.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.